Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Finn's versus the World. Here it is me, Chase, and I'm joined by my co-host, Anthony. How are you doing today?
Dude, I'm good. It's been a while. I feel like we haven't done a pod in probably over 2 months, maybe. I'm trying to think of like the last time. I want to say it was right after the draft, maybe.
Yeah, I believe. We did right after the draft, but now here we are. We're in the midst of it.
Football season, baby.
It
It's
is
football
started.
season.
Welcome back, everyone. I mean, it hasn't officially started, but at this time of year when you're just now there's finally content coming out. Like we're not in the dog days of June anymore. We got content. We got content 24/7. Pretty much anywhere you want to find stuff to listen to watch, you can find it now with just about anything NFL related, and it is a beautiful time.
Yo, Joel and I were talking a little bit beforehand. Before we started everything, we were just saying how like impressive it is for the Dolphins content creators. Like, shout out to all those people. Like again, like Kyle Krabs, Reason, 3 yards per carry. Like, I don't know how they do podcasts like once a week or once every like day. Like, I know Reason does one almost once every day. Like in that off season lull where there's nothing. I'm like, y'all, like, hats off to you guys because again, we haven't done a podcast, but I feel like not really much has happened, since we've done our last one. But yeah, it's nice and refreshing to be able every day to wake up and there be Dolphins content to either watch or read or, whatever it may be.
Exactly. And I will just say this before, and there's plenty of topics that we do have to get to, Dolphins related and not Dolphins related, but just to everyone out there, if you're, new to the Twitter space or just Dolphins following, like there's so much content going out there and it's real tough. It's real easy to just follow the wrong people and listen to just bad information. There's so much information from every team going out there. Just be careful what you read. Don't get too excited, too overinvested. Like this time last year, just for example, like the Jets they had Zach Wilson was the best quarterback in the NFL this time last year. If you read all the Jets beat writers, like there's just so much noise out there. So just take everything with a grain of salt would be my one advice to everyone. No matter how long you've been following the Dolphins or the NFL, just remember it is still July, August. We have a long way to go, guys.
Oh my God, dude. Sometimes it's like for me personally, if I ever make a mistake or if I overreact to something and it doesn't pan out, I try to learn from it. Like fingers crossed that I learn from it. But I think we joked about this last pod, how every time, every year, no matter what the situation is, it's like we always overreact to, oh, this guy's dropping footballs or Tua threw an interception or this and that. And I'm like, every year it's the same thing to where I'm like, so much is going to change literally just between now and the end of August. And I just feel like every year it's just either the same people, the same accounts, you'll see them where it's just like, hey, time to troll. And it's like, oh my God. Like,
I can't tell you how many times a year has come where I'm just like reading stuff from a guy, like in my younger days when I was young and more easily fooled, I'd just read some beat writers. And I'm sure everyone knows a couple that we could list off here, but you'd read something and then be all excited for some person from come regular season time, and they would just not even touch the field all season.
That's why I like, dude, I could go on. We're not going to because I want to get to more important stuff. But I think we have, honestly, and I don't care if I go on blast saying this, I think we have some of the worst beat writers. Like we have about 3 or 4 good ones that I like. But some of the as a fan, I shouldn't have to dig and ask friends of mine that go to practices about actual non-biased stuff of what's going on in practice. Cause I can't get info from beat writers. Cause it's just I just some of them I'm like, are you a journalist or are you a hater? I thought you're covering the Dolphins. Aren't you supposed to be a fan or happy or it's you got to be careful because some people, if you just listen to them, it's just negative all the time. And then
100%. And Yeah. So again, just be careful. Remember, they're all trying. Everyone has agendas and stuff. So be careful what
Right.
you read. No one's won the Super Bowl based off the
Right.
first full padded practice. So just be careful, breathe. I know everyone's excited. It's back, but remember to breathe and take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Here and
Agreed.
to transition here, and we did officially have the first form of padded practice today. I don't think it was full pads. I believe it was just shells, which is just shoulder pads pretty much, and helmets. But has it been 2 days or 3 days now? Probably the biggest news of training camp, unfortunately, in the NFL, I would say, happened to your very own Miami Dolphins. I know some people, their initial thought was like, of course it's us. It's always us. It's always us. But Jalen Ramsey did tear his meniscus and is going to miss extended time. The current timetable is December, but who knows? He said it personally, he's going to beat it. And obviously, we're all hoping for that. Wishing him the speedy recovery. Wishing him the best. But man, what a gut punch right off the bat. The marquee signing of the offseason, guy would go out and trade, arguably a top 5 defender in the NFL, not just a corner, maybe the best corner in the NFL. But yeah, what a gut punch. What was your initial reaction when you saw the news of? When at first it came out, it was like, is this a tear? Was it non-contact contact? And then when the dust settled and you saw he was going to miss extended time, what were your thoughts?
Yeah. So as I said, I got recently certified and trained in as a certified personal trainer with NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine. So when I first heard, I mentioned in our little group chat that we have that what I heard was it was a contact injury between him and Tyreek Hill colliding. And so when I heard that, I was thinking it's just a bruise. But apparently the injury happened before the contact, and that's what led to the contact, if that makes sense. So for those that don't know, I did a space, or I didn't do a space, but I was in a space, and there were a lot of people that were just very confused on. They hear meniscus injury and then they think, oh, how long? That's 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks was what was being reported. So there's differences in surgery, and not all people react to the same surgery. Even though I think that Jalen Ramsey's already had the surgery, they're not all the same. So with your meniscus, real quick, just to get into it for people that don't know, your meniscus, you have 2 forms of meniscus on your knee. You have a lateral and a medial. More so the medial one is the one that gets injured, and the meniscus is going to be in between the top of it's on the knee. It cushions the 2 bones that meet there in that knee joint. They look like horseshoes, and they're cartilage that act as shock absorbers. Okay. And so typically when you tear your meniscus, there's 2 things that can happen. The doctor's going to have to go in, they're going to have to do surgery on the knee. And they're going to go in and they're going to find one of 2 things. Either we just have to shave off some of the damaged cartilage on the meniscus, or we just have to completely remove or get rid of pieces of that said meniscus. However, with football injuries and with football players, if you just get rid of it and you don't replace it, over time, that can lead to arthritis and issues with the knee. Okay, so that's why you saw people like Ian Rappaport reporting fully replacing the meniscus that got injured is the best thing for him long term, because it's not just a temporary thing where he'll get back faster, but he's going to deal with issues in the long-term future. So what they did is they're going to go in, they're going to completely remove the whole piece of cartilage, all of it, even the parts that aren't damaged, and they're going to put in a donor meniscus. Okay, and when this happens, it takes a lot longer. So I saw a bunch of people that were like, I've seen meniscus injuries before. I've had one and I was back in 6 weeks. Okay, but they might have just gone in and been shaving off some of the damaged meniscus. When they actually go in and replace it, what I was told and what I've learned and studied is full meniscus repair takes 12 to 18 weeks. So right now they have him at 18 weeks, which would be the worst case scenario, which would have him back technically from when he got the surgery on Friday, I think it would have been, I think, December 1st. So it's literally the first day of December. Now, him being a football player, having great, like the Dolphins, we saw the grades in the offseason. They have great personal trainers, great rehab trainers. I would be shocked. Like, I would be stunned if we were at the Las Vegas Raiders game right after the bye week and he wasn't back, because that would put him at roughly like 14, 15 weeks, which would be roughly like halfway in between like the lowest recovery 12 weeks and the highest recovery 18 weeks. So like for me personally, like as soon as I heard that, I wasn't like flipping, because I just wanted to get that out of the way, because there's a bunch of people that were like, there's got to be more to the story. Like meniscus injuries are like 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm like, guys, like the literal doctors who are doing this are telling you 12 to 18 weeks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't flipping over the injury. And the reason for that is because, yes, it was a gut punch, but the Dolphins are still a good team without Jalen Ramsey. Yeah. They still have a really good secondary. They still have Cater Kohu. They still have Xavier Howard. They still have Javon Holland. Cater Kohu, from everything I've heard, everything I've read, is looking sensational. Cam Smith, like there's just certain rookies you could tell right away. Everything I've heard privately and
later,
everything in the media that I've heard and privately asking people is, yep, Cam Smith is the real deal. They got a player. You can already tell already. So I'm not really worried about it too much. I think that Vic Fangio with this scheme, it's going to be completely fine without Jalen Ramsey. He's the icing on the cake. He's not the cake. Okay. Will he make an impact when he's on the field? Yes. But this isn't Tua, where when he's injured, it's let's throw in the towel, right? We have a great front four, as good as any front four in the NFL. And again, with our linebackers, even though it's not the strongest unit, we've seen David Long. He has just been like the player of camp so far. The best player on the field for defense is what I've been told. So like we saw the practice he had today. I just think that like to think that just because Jalen Ramsey's gone, you could be upset. It's not ideal. It's not the greatest news, but at the end of the day, he'll be there for a hopeful playoff push. And I really just, it's not that I underestimate how good he is. I don't think him missing is that big of a deal. But I think when he comes back, it'll make a huge impact for us in a positive way, having him on the field. I just don't think it's really that big of a deal, him being gone.
Yeah, my few like just quick takeaways, I would say is this is another thing I kind of wanted to talk about, but I'll just say it now. Like, I don't think the signing of Eli Apple was by any indication like, oh, you know, some people may think of it like they're panicking. They need more secondary because he's missing time. I don't think so. I think they're just looking to add more depth. They have cap space now. Currently, this was the plan. I think they always were going to do this with cap space. If there was a position that got injured and they could address the need during training camp, they would. That's why they plan to have this cap space. And look, more injuries are going to happen. It's the nature of football. And they wanted to have a contingency plan here in the case that, God forbid, more secondary pieces get hurt. Hopefully not. But yeah, like you said, David Long, Cam Smith, the other additions to the defense. This defense is going to be improved, bottom line. And me personally, I still think that we have the biggest addition to the offseason on the defense, being Vic Fangio. So I'm not worried about that at all. He is the more I've like looked at just what we're doing and around the league this offseason, like the Vic Fangio signing is just night and day, like to pump his tires a bit here. I don't think anywhere in the NFL there's going to be a bigger increase from coordinator last year being us, Josh Boyer, to Vic Fangio now. That upgrade is the biggest in the NFL. Coaching wise, maybe besides Hackett to Peyton would be the only comparison I'd make between the two.
Players love him. I can tell you that for a fact. Is the coaching staff and the players are kind of like drooling over what they've seen and the improvements that they've seen in young guys like Channing Tindall, Cater Kohu, just the scheme, how the players feel about it, how good he is at teaching. I can promise you the players, like they know that, yep, he was worth every penny of what we paid him.
I think his reputation may have taken like a bit of a hit in like the broad scheme of the NFL just because it didn't work out as a head coach multiple times. But some guys are just our coordinators, and there's nothing.
It's an art form.
And
head coaching is an art form. It's not
a good coordinator,
right. I don't really like that we view the head coach as not promotion, but yeah, I think that the way we view it is like, oh, if you're really good as an offensive coordinator, the next step up is head coach. And it's like, yeah, technically, if you want to be a head coach, but like some guys just aren't cut out for that. Like, look at Brian Flores. Brian Flores is a great defensive mind, sucked as a head coach. And typically we see that with defensive coaches. Some have worked out, obviously Belichick being the biggest one, but a lot of guys, they're not cut out for that. They just want to stay in their lane. They only have to worry about defense. And because when you're a head coach too, it's not just about X's and O's. You're having to deal with families and player relations and dealing with there's a lot more to it. So night and day. And that's why he didn't want to be a head coach. He said that, and there were reports of that, is he had no interest in being a head coach. He wanted to be a defensive coordinator. And he's getting paid like a head coach. Don't get me wrong, but I don't care at all if he didn't work out as a head coach, because his defense is always good, and we already got a really good head coach. So we just need someone to take care of the defense that knows what the hell he's talking about. And I honestly think there isn't a guy or a coach that we've added that has this much that is this well known or this impactful or this knowledgeable on just anything, defense, offense. I don't think we've had as experienced of a head coach probably since when we got Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson. I mean, that far back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to think. So, even with the Eli Apple thing that you talked about, he doesn't move the needle for me in either direction, bad or good.
When he does.
But at the same time, this is an area where it's foreign territory for Dolphin fans because we've never had someone like Vic Fangio. But I sat there and I kind of messaged this in the group messages. If Vic Fangio doesn't have a problem with it, then I'm just going to kind of defer to him. And if he thinks it's a good move, and I promise you, he approves every single defensive signing or cut that they make. So if he approves of the Eli Apple thing, whatever his vision is, then I'm just going to trust him because he knows 10 million times more than I will ever know about football and defense. And honestly, I think with the Eli Apple thing, from what I've heard about Cam Smith, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Cam Smith was your day one starter. I mean, when I tell you, again, this is why I have such an issue with sometimes local beat writers, is they kind of have their agendas of they know what gets them clicks and views. They're not even talking about the fact that I've heard privately, Cam Smith has locked down Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle many times on his own. And they won't report that. They'll just say Skylar Thompson pass broken up by Cam Smith. No, Cam Smith is locking down and battling really good battles with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So again, I view Eli Apple as a safety net to where he's not horrible. Is he great? No. But if he was good enough to be on the Bengals, who went to a Super Bowl and an AFC championship back-to-back years, then he's not. This isn't Noah Igbenogany, but I would not be shocked in the slightest even if Eli Apple started week 1, I would not be shocked if we're at week 3, week 4, and Cam Smith is your starter opposite of Xavier Howard. I wouldn't be shocked.
So that was actually one of the things I wanted to talk about here, and we'll just get to it now. Yeah, who do you think will be let me ask you this, 2 separate questions here. Who do you think will be the starting cornerback week 1? And then who would you say, or CB2, the CB2 week 1?
Right. And starting opposite of X.
Yes. And who would be the current one right now if let's say we played a game right now?
It's hard because with Vic Fangio's defense too.
That's a good point.
I've heard people talk about this, and it's a great point, is do you move a guy to play Jalen Ramsey's role, or do you just do you do you have a guy fill in for Jalen Ramsey and what Jalen Ramsey can do, even though no one really can because Jalen Ramsey's a unicorn? Or do you just like have a guy fill in, have the best guy available there, and then like when I think personally what you do is you have Xavier Howard, you don't move Cater Kohu. I've seen people mention possibly moving him out to boundary. It's not a bad idea, but again, don't if it were me, when Jalen comes in, I want it to be like nothing changed except you added Jalen Ramsey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. I don't want it.
Need him, or I'm not sure the status of health of Williams.
Needham, I would be shocked if he was back earlier than like week 4. Oh, like I'd be shocked if he was playing before the season opener. Just again, things I've heard. Again, people who are actually at camp. Alf from 3 yards per carry mentioned he was at camp a couple times, and he said that like he doesn't look like close to being ready. Like he's projecting week 4 for him to be back, maybe getting put on. I think if you get put on IR, you're automatically out the first 4 weeks. Wouldn't be shocked to see that. It's not like Brandon Jones or Trill where they're kind of like inching their way back. Needham's a little further behind.
That'd be part of the reason Apple obviously is signed.
But I think Cam Smith and Eli Apple, I think they're going to be fine. Again, it's not like you have no Igbenogany on the other side. Like Cater Kohu, Javon Holland, and X, like that's going to be fine, especially for the first couple of weeks. You're playing the Chargers, who, yes, they have good wide receivers, so that'll be a tough one, and a good quarterback. The Patriots have not anything you need to worry about, even with Eli Apple or Cam Smith. The Broncos have injuries at their wide receiver, so like not really worried about that. The Bills are, even if Jalen Ramsey was there, a tough one. And then the Giants and the Panthers. So like I really think that, especially that first 6 games of the season, while Cam Smith's getting his feet wet and getting the rookie jitters and stuff out of the way, I really think you're going to be fine. Just like, again, if it were me, I'm putting Cam Smith in there. And then that's because I trust between Cater, X, and Javon for them to kind of make up. And I trust Vic Fangio to not kind of just throw him into the fire, into the lion's den. But I wouldn't be shocked either way. I see the appeal of adding Eli Apple, who has experience. But again, the things I've heard privately and publicly about Cam Smith, I think he's the real deal.
Nice. And then what is your take or just pulse of the situation on free safety? You think Brandon Jones will be our week 1 guy, or is Deshaun Elliott slated to be the starter? What have you been hearing?
I mean, not necessarily like I haven't really like publicly haven't seen really anything. Omar Kelly kind of messaged that they're trying someone new out at safety. I can't confirm like again, I've heard that there are certain people that they're trying at safety. I don't know who's going to play opposite. I would assume it's going to be Deshaun Elliott would be your day 1 safety opposite Javon Holland. That would be my guess. However, I do know that they are, from articles I've read and then people I listen to and ask questions with, that they are trying some other guys out at safety that maybe you wouldn't think. Not Cater, although again, I've heard formationally there, with Vic Fangio's coverages, I've heard that like there's times where Cater and X are playing safety because of the coverage. I've heard that, but for your question, as far as who do I think would be the day 1, I would assume it would be Deshaun Elliott. To me, Brandon Jones is going to be more of that blitzing linebacker, more of a rover rather than like someone who, again, it's like too high safety and it's Javon and Brandon Jones. I would think it would be Deshaun Elliott. But who knows? We're not really allowed to know much because people who go to camps aren't allowed to report this type of stuff. So, we'll see when they trot out.
Topic that's so silly, the NFL, like, I don't know what they're thinking that like they're not letting the beat writers tweet is ridiculous for sometimes, but
yeah. So we'll find out, and we'll find out next not this week, but next week when they trot out there, if they put out first team defense, I don't know if they will. First preseason game, now that there's only 3 normally starters will play. So we'll see. I'm not sure. I'm curious. I would think it's Deshaun Elliott though.
So we'll be getting joint practices next week.
Yeah, next week.
That will
next week. Dude, I love joint practices. Joint practices to me are the best. Joint practices to me are honestly, I like them more than preseason games. Like preseason games are cool because you get to watch them, but like joint practices, it's where the starters are like actually implementing like new stuff that they haven't ever seen before. I mean, do you remember last year, dude? I thought after the Eagles week, I was like, okay, well, like they even thought, they were like, yeah, I think the Dolphins are like going to go to the Super Bowl because they're like completely destroying us. Like,
yeah, so the Dolphins are healthy, but
yeah. And I love the teams that we're doing joint practices against this year. I think that all of them, I think even the teams we're facing preseason, I think all of them offer something different. I think that like with the Falcons, who are the first ones, they had like one of the best running attacks in the NFL last year. Mm-hmm. And that is a huge thing for me. Is I really think that we need to lean heavily on the run games, the defense, especially while Jalen's out, and we need to have that solid. So I think between their offensive line, Bijan Robinson, I'll be curious to see how they do there. So again, joint practices are great. There's a competitive nature to them. It's like the playoffs of training camp, is what I like to call it. So yeah, dude, it's coming up. There's going to be a lot that we learn in the next 2 weeks about our team. So
the Falcons they're a very good measuring stick. The NFC is obviously weaker than the AFC, but outside of quarterback, I mean, the Falcons have a very solid roster. I think Arthur Smith too is a respectable coach. I'm interested to see. They're not as good of a measuring stick as the Super Bowl runner-up of last year, but they're definitely we'll know where we are based off those practices, rankings wise. I'd say how will fare come week 1. But let's transition here to definitely, and we'll circle back to training camp. There's a couple other stuff we'll touch on, but the definite news of now, I mean, it's been all summer, the Dalvin Cook saga, the never-ending saga, that I'd like to just end one way or another.
As soon as possible, right?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest. I'm not a running back guy at all. I'm with the NFL and what they're doing now, kind of like just these running backs once they turn 26. Like it's hard to give them another contract. It really is just based off the metrics and everything you look at, the advanced analytics, like everything you look at. Just the running back position has changed so much, and I think it's going to change again. Like the NFL's ever evolving, Like right. 20 years ago, not 20 years ago. I mean, I guess it kind of almost was at this point now. It's crazy to say, but we drafted Ronnie Brown, I believe it was 2nd overall. That'd be just heresy nowadays. If someone was taking running back 2nd while there was quarterbacks, the best quarterback still available, they'd be.
That's crazy. It was 18 years ago. It feels like
yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it was a 2005 draft.
Yeah, but yeah. The running back position is in such a weird spot, and Dalvin Cook being on the unfortunate end of it, but he's caught in the middle of it, and so are the Dolphins. And just what are your overall thoughts? Again, me personally, I'm not super interested in him. I just wish this would kind of just end. I feel like it's just been going on so long at this point. I'm tired of seeing it.
Right. So I agree with you that I want it to end. I think everyone involved, no matter who your favorite team is, even if you aren't in the Dalvin Cook sweepstakes, I think you kind of want it to end because it's just, this has been going on. They tried to trade for him in March. So this has been what now? March, April, May, June, July, 5 months. So that's almost a half a year. It's like I was going to say, it's like if Deshaun Watson wasn't a Predator, it's like that all over again. Yeah. So unlike you, actually, running back's my favorite position in football. However, to all the people, including myself, that are like, man, why is the running back position getting devalued? Because it works.
Yeah.
The NFL doesn't do anything. It's a copycat league. If they see, hey, in order to win a Super Bowl or to get to, none of the teams really have star running backs. They don't allocate a lot of money there. So it's a shame, because I love running back. When I was younger, I was like, Ricky Williams was my favorite. I wanted to be a running back. That wouldn't work, because if you just saw me, you'd be like, yeah, you're not a running back. But I love the running back position. It's a shame to see what's happening to it. As far as the Dalvin Cook situation, I'm kind of to a point where I just keep going back to, so this typically happens when there's transactions or trades like this that take forever. We kind of lose sight of like how it all started, because more often than not, unless it's the Browns who just jump in with Deshaun Watson, it typically doesn't change much from how it starts. It's just guys leveraging for more money or teams leveraging for less money. Dalvin Cook wants to be a Miami Dolphin. And at the end of the day, whenever I think about it, I just remember his agent saying that they tried to trade for him. He wants to be a Dolphin. Dalvin Cook goes on Good Morning Football or whatever the show is called and says it's a Cinderella story to play in Miami. When superstar players typically in the past have wanted to play for the Miami Dolphins, they become Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill did, and Jalen Ramsey did. And with Dalvin Cook, although it's been a long, weird kind of process, I think it's just kind of a weird situation because he does play running back, and he doesn't need to rush. Why go back to training camp early? Running back is the easiest position to transition to. You literally they tell you what to run and you find the hole. At the end of the day, it's not like tight end or quarterback. So
let me add something real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there, but
no, you're good, man.
Know how much the running back position has changed. And I'm not comparing the dude. Dalvin Cook is way better than Jeff Wilson, but the Dolphins traded for a fourth for Jeff Wilson now and weren't even willing to give that for Dalvin Cook. Obviously different salaries, but like no one wants to touch a running back now with any running back with like a 10-foot pole. It is crazy how far the pendulum has swung the other way from, people drafting Zeke and Saquon. I think that was honestly probably what did it, Zeke's contract. But
yeah, and it's also, like it's hard because, again, if you're in the Dolphins' shoes, you're like, I want him, but how much do you pay for a guy who is a rotational? Like, again, we want Dalvin Cook to work here, and you're not just going to be like, screw you, Raheem, and we just drafted Devon A-Chain and you're never going to play. Like, they're trying to, they would love him if Raheem Mostert was not on this team right now. He would be a Dolphin, like right away. It's just when you have Raheem and when you have A-Chain, where you technically don't need Dalvin Cook, yes, you want him, but again, it's going to take a lot longer because how much do you pay for a guy? The report that Reason first was the first person to say a long time ago, and then kind of everyone followed, was 4.5 million. Okay. That is still the offer from the Dolphins. The Jets have not offered anything more. He went to visit the Jets this past week. Everyone was freaking out. I was hearing again from Reason and people like that, do not freak out. This is a posture to get money. Turns out it was. I think ultimately not to spend much more time on it because, again, I know people are tired of it. At the end of the day, I think we're kind of overcomplicating it. If Dalvin is offered a lot of money, he would be somewhere right now. If the Jets offered him 2 years, $18 million, he would be a Jet right now, because I do not think the Dolphins are going to go any higher if they don't have to than $6.5, $7 million. So ultimately, it might be more of a waiting game, but again, I think both sides want to get it done. Let's get him in the building. Energy is a little lower, maybe a little higher now than it was, but with the Jalen Ramsey thing, just bring him in. I think now that he visited the Jets, that won't happen again. I can't see the Jets. They know that he's effing with them. You know what I mean? Like, if you were with a girl or a guy and they were interested in you and someone else, and you found out through the grapevine that they said it would be a Cinderella story to be with this other person, you'd be like, okay, well, I'm not going to go out of my way to try anymore because you clearly don't want to be with me. So I think ultimately he wants to be here. I know for a fact McDaniel really, really wants him. I think it's more so Chris Grier just trying to be smart with the money he spends. But again, I'm still, nothing with the Jets has changed my mind. If he's a Jet, it's because they offered him $9 million plus. But right now it's still the same offer, which I think is like 5.5 million. So I think he'll probably wait it out one more week. We maybe go visit the Patriots. But I mean, if we're doing this show 2 weeks from now and he's not a Dolphin, I'll be like, come on, dude, like on both sides. But yeah, I think he'll be a Dolphin. Maybe the Dolphins move the offer up a little bit more, but I think he'll be a Dolphin, and just my guess, and not because I know anything. I think he'll be a Dolphin.
I don't see any team like a random third team, like running back getting hurt and them coming in and offering him that $9 million price tag.
No, especially with Jonathan Taylor out there. Like anyone, again, he wants to win. That's another thing no one talks about. It's like there's teams out there that he could probably go to that'll pay him, but like he wants to win. And again, I didn't even mention this, but I'll say it because I know reason has come public. Dalvin Cook told the Jets to stop calling him a while ago. So this whole thing where it's like he's going to visit them, it's the only way he'd go to the Jets is if they offered him like way more money. I'm not saying he won't go to the Jets, but that's the only way. So like Chris Grier knows this, and I just think that from a fan's perspective, it's like I'm getting heartburn thinking about it every single day. So it's like, can we just figure something out? But whatever happens. I just don't want to see him as a Jet, just because like I hate the Jets. So it's like, and I'm not a fan of these guys who are like Miami natives or like natives of a town going to division rivals. I'm like literally anyone else. So yeah.
So I mean, speaking of the Jets here, will you be watching Hard Knocks next week? I think it's next week already, right?
Yeah, TBD. Just
really?
In general, like Hard Knocks.
It's not entertaining, but I'm interested in
this. It's just it's weird because anytime anyone knows they're being filmed, I don't care how authentic you think it is, it's not. Like if you knew a camera was on you, that's all you're thinking about and you're acting different. So yeah, you get to see little things, but like they're not going to show you anything groundbreaking. I can promise you, if Dalvin Cook is a Dolphin, I will for sure be watching Hard Knocks, because again, imagine if you're the Jets and you're like, he's posturing to go to the Miami Dolphins.
That's going to be all over.
And now it's on Hard Knocks. It's like, I'm pissed off, right? I'm very mad. So if he becomes a Dolphin, I'm going to need to be blocked on Twitter, because like the Jets fans literally are arguing with Nick Hicks, who is Dalvin Cook's trainer, text him and sees him in person. They're arguing with him about where Dalvin Cook is right now. So like, I hope to God we can laugh in their face and be like, not only did you think you were getting Dalvin Cook, but he went to a division rival. Like, not only did you not get him, but this happened to you 2 years in a row where a very good player, top 10 in their position, used you for posturing for money. So like, if he becomes a Dolphin, I will only watch the episode. If not, I'm not going to be watching the show, not because it's the Jets, just because I've never watched it.
Not to specifically pick on the Jets. I'll pick on every division rival equally here over the time. But my God, that picture of Aaron Rodgers, something does not look right there, where he's just holding the football. It's how many look. I mean, for lack of a better word, just frail.
Yeah, and the whole. There's a rumor going out there that the reason he took less money and restructured his contract is because apparently Devontae Adams, they might try to trade for him. Yeah. Now, if that happened, I'd be like, oh man, like, but I'm also not as high on Devontae Adams as a lot of people. I just think that he's just a good route runner, but I think it's really easy to kind of knock him out and not deal with him like as a problem. But still, that'd be a good weapon for him to have. But yeah, no, won't be watching Hard Knocks. Hard pass unless Dalvin Cook again, like the scene, oh my God, dude, chills. The scene where it's like the narrator being like, the Jets think they're getting Dalvin Cook. And then like 2 scenes later, it's like, but unfortunately, Dalvin had plans elsewhere. And it's just like, and then it's them like reacting like, you know what I mean? Like just current, oh man, dude, there's nothing better. It's like real life is better than movies, dude. Sometimes
I will be watching. I'm interested, and look, I may end up being very wrong here and looking really stupid and sounding stupid, but I'm not seeing it with the Jets, and I just want to be confirmed with all my assumptions for them this season from Hard Knocks will be the main reason I'm watching, but I do not see it with that O-line and just some other real big concerns. Coaching.
Yeah, I think they'll be good, and I could see them getting to the playoffs.
They're not Super Bowl like
right. I just think that like again in today's NFL, we just think, yeah, if you get a quarterback, it's like the Jets weren't a quarterback away. Like the Jets, they were 7-10. Like it's not the 49ers who go to the NFL. Like they were 7-10, and over half their wins, 4 of their 7 wins came against backups. 2 of those were backups, or 3 of those were backups in their first start. So like almost half their games came against backup rookies in their first NFL start ever. So like, or actually, no, I think it's 5 of their 7 wins came against backups. 2 of them were rookies in their first start. That's what it was. So it's like, yeah, I think they'll be good. I think that it's not like we're going to like blow them out. I think the Dolphins are a better team pretty much everywhere except like tight end and I don't know, just out of respect.
Now with Ramsey hurt, but when we're fully healthy, then yeah.
Right. So I think it'll be tough games.
Maybe.
Right. And you look at their schedule, I'm like, ooh, those first 6 games are like, But anyway, I don't care about that.
Well, another thing I just want to transition on, just so people don't think we're only picking on the Jets here. The Bill O'Brien, beginning of the Bill O'Brien era has not gotten off to a great start. I mean, I didn't think it was possible for people to just be more mad than Matt Patricia out of offense in the first few days of camp.
Oh, are they not? I haven't seen anything. I've been kind of off Twitter just because, again, we talked about how it can kind of be. I haven't seen what's the deal? This is the first time hearing. I didn't like what's going on there.
It's a mess. It's just a mess. Just nothing's going well, like disorganized still, like how last year the offense just looked inept and people doing, running wrong routes, miscommunications. Like, I mean, that's to be expected anywhere the first few weeks.
Well, again, it's hard when you don't have talent. Like, with all due respect to Bill O'Brien, it's like, I don't know what you want from him. Like, your quarterback is average. Your running backs are average. Your offensive line is slightly above average. Your wide receivers are below average. Your tight end is below average, and you have a good defense. So it's like, I don't know. We did this as Dolphin fans, right? We were like, Chan Gailey sucks. And even though Gotze and Stutesville weren't great, it's like, okay, but you don't have any talent. You suck. Like, your wide receivers are Devontae Parker, Preston Williams. I can't believe this is real.
I can't believe that was just like
Isaiah Ford, no offense. Mike Gesicki. Your running backs were Myles Gaskin, Savon Ahmed. You had Jesse Davis at right tackle.
A long way, Dolphins.
Dude, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's like you have to have a little bit of realization as a fan. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure Bill O'Brien's also thinking, well, this team sucks and my roster sucks. So like, F off a little. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can imagine it doesn't look good. Their defense is pretty good and their offense is just inept no matter what. That's what happens when you don't have talent around your quarterback and your quarterback's not a top 5 quarterback. That's what happens.
And so let's from around the league of the AFC East of other camps, let's come back to ours here. And I am sort of totally not in the dark of this, but what is the current tight end situation? These are like right now I'm looking at a list I made of just storylines I'm interested in camp. And we kind of touched on starting cornerback 2 already. Right. Brandon Jones' health, running back by committee, we sort of touched on. But yeah, who is going to be the tight end? Like, I know they're going to be primarily blocking. Like, there's no Mike Gesicki on this roster, but who will be the tight end, and then who will come in passing situations?
So couple things to break down here. So we haven't heard anything about tight ends, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I just don't think they're good. I think honestly we have a bottom 5 tight end unit in the NFL.
Maybe,
but he may be lower. Maybe it might be the worst. Probably is. That's just me being a homer.
Yeah, that's right.
However, I don't think that it's that big of a deal because, again, if we were to get Dalvin Cook, you have Robbie Chosen, you have Braxton Berrios, you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Even if you had a good tight end, they're mainly just going to be used for those safety type throws where, hey, no one's open, let me just throw it to my tight end. And from what I've heard privately, and kind of like Eric Ezukanma kind of talked about it, where he's kind of, what I've heard is he's getting cross-trained as a tight end / wide receiver hybrid. So that, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are out there, 2 high safeties. Well, you might be in, I don't even know, like 11 personnel, which for those that don't know, whenever someone says 11, 12, 21, whatever it is, the first number is how many running backs are on the field. The second number is how many tight ends. So 11 personnel would be 1 running back, 1 tight end. 21 personnel would be 2 running backs, 1 tight end. 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. Okay. So if you have Eric Ezukanma on the field and he's cross-trained as a tight end, well, you can use him now to where maybe he's going in motion and blocking so that if they have 2 high safeties because they think you're in 11 personnel, well, now you can do a run play and use him in motion and you're in 21 personnel all of a sudden. Right. You give him the ball, kind of how I wanted to use Brenton Strange if we got him in the draft, or you can go to 12 personnel and run the football and kind of utilize him as a blocker. So he kind of mentioned it in a interview after the practice that John Embry was kind of giving him some coaching tips and stuff on blocking. I've heard that I'll go as far to say that, again, based off of people that are at training camp or are talking with people at training camp, that like he has his own packages.
I did not hear any of this.
So I think as far as like a big red zone threat, Mike McDaniel will kind of manufacture ways to get the ball to like a quote unquote tight end. But I really just think that as far as a tight end, you just really need a blocker. And then you need guys that are good at blocking as wide receivers like Trent Sherfield was to kind of manufacture those runs when you need to, because let's be honest, how good of a tight end would you need for him to be an impact player on this offense? Because he's not going to be better than Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. So like, you know what I mean? Like you would need to have like a top 3 tight end in the NFL for him to be like an impact player on this team. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but yeah.
Blocking mainly just, coming in, I guess, on those obvious run situations. And
I'm telling you, don't sleep on Elijah Higgins. Not this year, but don't sleep on Elijah Higgins by 2024, maybe even like halfway through the season next year. Like I showed you all a clip of him at practice today, and I was like,
that was cool.
Dude, just give him time. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. If tight end was, I know they wanted a tight end in the draft, but I don't think it's huge. Maybe.
All right. And then next, another thing, what do you think before the injury and then currently, what do you think Igbinogheni's roster status is? I mean, it's a tough one, but he is going to be making the first round player money, and that's not his fault. But I mean, that's money that's got to be paid, and that would be saved, I believe. Don't quote me, but I believe that they could save some money cutting him. And I do think the Ramsey injury makes a difference. I think he'll probably be on the roster, would be my guess.
Oh, no, Igbinogheni you think will be on the roster?
Igbinogheni.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have made it before.
Oh, my God. So Noah Igbinogheni right now is making, I think, like $2 million. I think. I think he's making like somewhere like $2 million or something. If you would have asked me kind of before everything happened with Jalen Ramsey.
I think it's 2.5. It looks like
2.5.
No, I'm sorry, 3.5.
Oh my God, he's making 3.5 million.
That's his cap hit.
Okay, so what happens if he's cut? They save what, 500,000? I think is what I'm saying here.
No, they save
a little over 500.
I see that, yeah, cut, but that was pre-first. See, post.
Yeah, now if they cut him after June 1st,
it's the same. It's the same.
Or if it says trade pre-June 1st. Yeah. So again, I don't think they will, just because, again, if you would have asked me before the Jalen Ramsey thing, I would have said probably not. But I just think that now with the injury, it's just they'll probably try to play it safe and see what Vic Fangio can do. But I wouldn't count on him doing anything. Like, again, there's Keon Crossan, Justin Bethel, Eli Apple, Cam Smith. Those are 4 people that I would put before Noah Igbenogany. And even if you include the slot, there's about 6 or 7 people ahead of him. So at best, he's your cornerback 6.
Great, which is great.
Right. So it's like, I don't know what you do. Do you save $500,000 because they could save like $536,000 cutting him? I don't know if they will, but it's also like, why, what's he at? He doesn't even have special teams though.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. I mean, it depends. Like, the question is is he the 53rd person? Is he like, is there someone who is more deserving of a spot? Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's too early in training camp to like really tell who's like the fringe roster players, like who's close to making.
But like realistically, what how do I work? Like with Noah, I don't know what people like with Cam Smith. We're seeing it right away. With Javon Holland, we saw it right away. With Kader Kohu, we saw it right away. Like, I don't know what people are holding out for with Noah Igbenogany. And at the same time, I'm not really sure if you cut him, how easy would it be to replace him? Very easy. Like the fact that you could go get, I mean, anyone can get burnt. Anyone can get burnt. You might as well put me out there. I'll take $150,000 a year and I'll get burnt. There's no issue there. So I don't know what they'll do. My brain tells me cut him. There's no point of having him. He's taking up a roster spot and he's not going to do anything. My gut is telling me they'll probably keep him, at least until, maybe they feel a little more confident with the secondary unit, seeing them in live action. But
so the one thing I'll always say is he still is 24 years old. I mean, that's kind of like what everyone's holding out for. Like, he was still young when he was drafted, but
I'm 25 and I can't play the position though. So it's like, I know he's 24, but I know he's 24, but he sucks and he's 24. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
No, I totally agree with you. I'd like to think that if someone called us and offered a 7th, we'd take it. I don't think that's happened. I'll just put it that way.
At this point, what is stopping you from just being like, let's just put you back at wide receiver? He probably has a better, no, because our wide receiver unit's so good. But that's what I'm saying. Like, at this point, you might as well just be like, punt returner, we don't need you. Have Braxton Berrios, Chosen Anderson, Cedric Wilson, and then we have everyone else that could do it, like Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, Javon Holland. So it's like, you're not going to be used in special teams as a returner. At cornerback, I don't know, try to put him in safety. I maybe he'll have a better chance of making a roster spot there, but I just don't see it. And it's like that stuff that makes me pissed. It's like, okay, so you think that Eli Apple and Noah Igbenogany are good enough to make 6 and change combined, but you will only give Dalvin Cook 4.5? That to me, again, that's where it doesn't make sense to me. But I give players a 3-year window. Austin Jackson is a bust. Liam Eichenberg, I'll give 1 more year, and Noah Igbenogany is a bust. I think Chris Greer is the best general manager we've ever had, at least in my lifetime. But those are busts, and it's time for you to move on. Again, I know you can draft the secondary, Cam Smith, I know, is going to be good. Javon Holland is great. Brandon Jones is good at what he does. And Kader Kohu. Okay, so 4 out of 5 people in the secondary you drafted are phenomenal. And Nick Needham. Sorry, 5 out of 6 people you drafted or found in undrafted free agency are great at what they do. One of them didn't work. We have this misconception that like he can't draft secondary. That was a Brian Flores pick, and he's no longer on this team. He's no longer a coach. Right. So like that's what I'm saying. I think it's just like we're holding on to this hope that like he's just magically going to like come out there and do what he did against the Steelers for the game winner. And it's like, okay, but even with Jalen Ramsey injured, it's like Cam Smith is already like way better than him. I can't stress that enough. Like he's way better than Noah already, and he's a rookie 2nd round pick. So, you know, I don't see the point of having him on the team, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if he made it the roster.
And then what do you, just any sort of interesting things you've been noticing, from what you've seen at training camp? I'll share my thoughts real quick and then let you go. Just from what I've seen, and it's impossible to tell before pads. So again, take this with a grain of salt, like everything, but, just O-line depth again for how many years has this team been a franchise since I've been alive? 24. That seems to always be the biggest concern, O-line depth. And it doesn't help when you have basically someone guaranteed to miss at a minimum 4 games in Teron Armstead. Missing 4 games would be like best career numbers pretty much. Right. But yeah, I mean, just O-line guard depth mainly isn't looking great. And it's not, when Austin Jackson's the starter for to his blind side, that's, never right here, especially in such a pivotal year. Other than that, David Long looks great as advertised. And then it's great to see Bradley Chubb. I don't know if he had an injury or anything when he got traded to us, but yeah, I mean, like there was kind of some whispers that like he wasn't all we paid up for, and it seems like he's just a monster by everything that
he was in a different scheme. I hated when people said that. I was like, I mean, granted, I will call myself out that when the draft came, I was like, man, I would have loved to have that 1st round pick. However, again, this guy came in halfway through a season to a new team and it wasn't even the scheme that he is good in. So like, what do you want him to do?
But yeah, what have you been seeing? Anything you've sort of been seeing that's piquing your interest?
So, defensively, I think our defense is going to shock people without Jalen Ramsey. I think that with Jalen Ramsey, people kind of expected it. I think now that he's not there, people are like, oh man, well, they're going to be good, but maybe not as good. No, I think the Dolphins defense is going to be a top 5, top 7 unit without Jalen Ramsey. And I think, honestly, we're going to get to the point where, unless any injuries happen, we're going to get to the point where Jalen Ramsey comes back and we're going to be in a tough situation because, like, obviously, he's going to play. But, like, next year, what happens? Because, like, it's kind of going to be overwhelming, I think, because I think our secondary is going to be great without him. I think our front 7 is going to shock people because all we've heard is our linebackers suck. They're not good. And I think that it's like our front 4 and 7 is going to shock people this year. Personally, I believe that. As far as offensive line, the only position I'm worried about is right tackle, which again is the blind spot. Left tackle, I'm not worried about because I've heard that Kendall Lamb looks great. And he would be your backup to Teron. Isaiah Wynn, I think, is going to be really good at left guard. Yeah, they're not allowed to say, but yes. And
then they're putting
right. So the only position I'm worried about is right tackle. And honestly, in this scheme where like you got guys like Waddle and Hill with rockets up their ass and they're running all over in motion before the snap, like I really didn't think our offensive line was that. Again, is it really good? No, but like I think if we had mediocre O-line play, it'd be fine. Tua, again, last year didn't get injured in any play because of the O-line at all. Like, there was no issue. And I think they're getting better coaching. Again, right tackle's an issue, I believe. But, I just think that overall, I think we're going to be fine. I'm not saying that there's not going to be games where we're like, man, the offensive line's not doing well, but I don't think there's any fix right now for it. And then the other thing is, I think Skylar Thompson's your quarterback too. I don't think Mike White. I don't think Mike White will be your quarterback too. And then trying to think if there's anything. I think Bradley Chubb's going to have the best season of anyone on the defense.
Yeah.
Personally, I think people forget like this scheme specifically, Vic Fangio is the reason why he got the money he got. It's not because of what he did last year. He got the money he got because of Vic Fangio. And the fact that now he has Jalen Phillips opposite of him, Christian Wilkins, who's hungry for a contract, and Zach Sealer, I think Bradley Chubb, like, I'm not even joking. I just don't think people are talking enough about him. And another guy we're definitely not talking a lot about is Emmanuel Ogbah is going to shock people this year. For sure. Emmanuel Ogbah, again, I've listened to too many people who are at camp that aren't beat writers because they're not going to talk about this. I've listened to too many people who are at camp that have said, like, holy, you know what? He looks absolutely incredible. And I've heard from people that talk to coaches and no coaches that they have, quote unquote, they think he's in the best shape that he's been in as an entire NFL professional. So yeah, I'm excited, dude. I'm excited for this team. I just think that really, if it weren't for the Dalvin Cook thing, I feel a lot more steady, but I just think that it's been a distraction. So
yeah.
But so yeah, those are things I'm monitoring.
From what you say, you think we're going to see a heavy diet of both Mike White and Skylar Thompson all preseason then in the game specifically?
I don't know how much. I think you're going to see a lot more Mike White because I think he needs to prove himself. I don't think, for me, I don't know what more people want. Like, Skylar Thompson's a backup. He's not your quarterback one. And he went into Buffalo last year to almost beat the Bills. So, like, he knows the system better than Mike White. He's as talented as Mike White. And I'm not really sure what again, I'm not disrespecting. Like, if you think like Mike White's better, like, that's fine. It's just, for me, like, I know what Skylar Thompson can do. I'm excited to see what he does in preseason. But like, to me, it never really made sense getting Mike White. I thought it was a waste of money because Skylar Thompson knows the system better. He knows the locker room better. He knows the wide receivers better. He knows everyone better. And he's just as talented. And you're grooming him to be a backup. So everything I've heard is that unless politics come into play, he's your quarterback too, because he's looked way better. So
fair. Well,
that's the number one thing in preseason that I'm looking for is that, because
if you're watching the games, that'll be the main storyline. Me personally, I think it's going to be a lot more Skylar just because I think he does have a lot more developing to do. Like you said, he was a rookie last year and did go in, and he knows the scheme and everything. I'm interested to see his development. But yeah, I honestly, before people were even talking about it, I did not even realize it was going to be a thing. I thought it was kind of given to Mike White. That's why they brought him in here. But right. Yeah, that makes me excited, honestly, to watch the game. That was good to know, because I would like to see either of them going against some second team defenses.
And then I'd also like to see the drops cleaned up. I trust Tyreek and Jalen because they're dudes, they're dogs. But like, I've seen too many and heard too many things about, like, almost every other play it's like a drop. Or at least that's all that's been reported. So I'd like to see that cleaned up, but at the end of the day, it's not a big deal because, again, they look at what they've done in their careers. So like, I'm not super worried. It's just like, and also I think people need to understand, because I've seen a lot of like, oh, I haven't seen as many explosive plays. Like, Vic Fangio's defense doesn't allow that. Like, last year they were going against man-to-man. So yeah, I'm sure Tyreek Hill was beating out Noah Igbenogany. Like, and that's why they were big plays. But this year you're not going to see a lot of that, and I'm happy. I don't want to see a lot of big plays. I want to see I don't know why my Siri is on right now. I don't know if you could hear me, but
you can hear it.
Okay. Yeah, like I I want the offense to get used to not always having the big play there. I want Tua to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that's the type of stuff that I'm looking for. That's what I care more about. I care more about the defense. I know the offense is going to be fine. Like
100%.
you're doubting Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen to do well after they were like number 3 in the history of the NFL last year in total yards.
The one thing I want to see cleaned up, and then we'll go to this ain't closing thoughts we got here. I'd just like to see the pre-snap penalties cleaned up from last year. I would hope that'd be an emphasis this training camp. And I don't know if it has been or hasn't. I haven't been able to get one, and it's, tough to just follow along with all the information. And that'll be one thing to look for in the joint practices. They do have refs there. I mean, they're not sticklers calling everything like.
Vic Fangio was the ref today.
He was.
Yeah, he was the referee today
for illegal motion and stuff. So
he called a couple of pass interferences. He called one on Xavier Howard, I know.
Nice. But that'd be the one thing I'd like to see cleaned up. And then closing thought from me, just it's coming fast, guys. Get your affairs in order. Football season's here, Dolphin season here, and let's support them. They need our support. Be with them every step of the way here.
Yeah, closing thoughts. I'm excited for our defense. I'm very excited of what I've heard, both heard publicly, and behind the scenes. Our offense, I think I'll feel a lot better when Dalvin Cook's on our team, because I think he will be. Just because, Jalen Waddle said it himself, like, this offense needs to evolve. And the way you evolve from last year is you allow more play action, and you need a run game to do that. Because last year they would do play action RPO, but people stopped falling for it because we never ran the football. But I think Dalvin actually gives you a threat there. But yeah, I'm excited for football season. I get that the same feeling every year. It's just like, you don't know what's going to happen. And there's kind of this like unsettling awesomeness about that. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for preseason to start. I'm excited for, what could happen this year, because I genuinely like believe that if Tua is healthy, and I even hate saying that because that's like common sense. If your starting quarterback's healthy, you're going to go far. But like, last year we had a bottom 8 defense in the NFL. So like, look at what we accomplished with Tua missing and a bottom 8 defense. So like, I genuinely am very excited for this year. I thought that last year, if Tua was healthy in the playoffs, we could have easily won a game or two. And so I think this year, obviously we need to see him stay healthy, but I've never really felt like this about the Dolphins. It's weird to be like, the fact that the Dolphins can like be very, very good. It's like, you don't want to believe it in a weird way. You're like, I can't see it or imagine it. But I genuinely think like we're going to kind of be shocked. Like, I think our expectations are even a little bit low for some people. Not saying that we're going to win a Super Bowl, but I just think that it should be a very fun season. And the fact that football's back is good. It's a good thing for everyone. So I'm excited.
Yep. And I know you guys are too. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the support.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Take care.